Since doing this job, I've met many extraordinary people, but none more exceptional and singular than my next guest. He's the punk rocker who's talked to, nay, lectured popes and presidents, prime ministers and plutocrats. This week, he's won an award at the Brits for his outstanding contribution to music. Please welcome Bob Geldof. That was a lightning-fast walk-on. You got the Olympic record for about 3 seconds flat. We got all that music for you. You should have walked down and milked it and bowed and...
Thank you very much.
That's all right.
What do you do at the top? You always feel a complete doofus standing there. Get it over with.
Now, what about this award, eh? Outstanding contribution to music. Given the list of awards that you've got already, I mean, where's this rank?
Very high, pathetically.
Why pathetically?
Because, for me, the only thing that I can do, that I like doing and that I think that I do fairly well is music. The rest is stuff I can do, so I do it. And so getting this one, you can really wrap up all the other bits of metal and paper and don't throw them out, put them in a drawer, but I'll keep this one.
I suppose it's a timely reminder, this is what you must be thinking, that to some people, you are a musician. That's what you are.
Well, I think I am, but I don't think they're very interested in that, which I also think is fair enough.
Why do you think they're not interested in that?
Because you have, in pop is ruthless, and I agree with it, really. You have your moment where you define that period, and other bands, if you're having hits, they look at what you're doing and think, OK, that's what it is at the moment. And then the audience moves on, and you think you're still ahead of the audience, or you think you're bringing them with them, but intellectually you understand what's happening, but creatively it's difficult because you still think you're working very well, and they're not interested.
But I suppose also, too, in your case, I mean, whatever you've achieved in music has been spectacularly overwhelmed by what you've achieved in other areas. In
the social area, yeah. I mean, that's kind of... And please, there is no comparison with myself and the Beatles, but that's sort of what happened to the Beatles. Their music at the beginning was superb, but what made them extremely famous was their accents and their haircuts and their suits and stuff. They went outside the narrow confines of what they did. And when I was in the Rats, I was, you know, on your show and stuff, and people knew me for that, and that's what you could talk about. And then the Band Aid and Live Aid stuff happened, and then the entire country joined in on that. And so you became... known for that, and as I say, it's fair enough.
Is that thing that you're known for, that Saint Bob, is that a burden to you? Saint Bob?
It got bad when it first started happening, because I didn't know what to do with it at all. I'd always been called several things, Michael, you know, and it was... it was interesting to be called Saint Bob, but genuinely this happened. You would walk along a street and older ladies would come along and touch the hem of the garment. You go, oh, Jesus, Bob, and they'd start crying. And get to... You know? And that was very disconcerting. And they put upon you things that you didn't really represent or couldn't possibly live up to. And that's, you know, confining and a bit scary. And I wrote a book, and that did well, and I hope to deflate the whole cult of personality that it built up, but it really didn't. But over the years, they've sort of got used to me now, so it's...
Let's go back to those formative years then. I mean, it seemed to me, reading about you, that your childhood was actually shaped. It was determined by the sad death of your mother when you were about 7. I mean, it seemed to me that was a crucial point in your life that changed you.
I think it would be in anyone's life. I mean, my mum woke up in the middle of the night, and my dad's called Bob as well. She said, Bob, I've got a headache, and dead. And obviously my dad, who was 41, she was 40, was destroyed. And that was it. That was, you know, for my 2 sisters and my dad, who was 90 in November, was, I suppose, for any family, the moment. And there is a perpetual sense of loss isn't the word, or emptiness isn't the word, but there's a sort of void somewhere. And I assume that it must be at that point it happened. It's not filled with God, as some people write to me. It's a God-shaped hole, or it's a mum-shaped hole. It's not. You know, love puts it at ease. But other than that, you just feel this. And I'm sort of melancholic and gloomy by disposition, you know, fairly famously. So that's where you root it at that point.
Then how did it manifest itself, though, in you as the child? It made you an awkward child? Or?
I was okay in school up until about the age of 10. And then for some reason, I just opted out. And I also developed asthma at the age of 11. So I think it possibly, apparently classically, you know, Dorothy Parker wrote actually interestingly about this. You know, when you actually need someone around, like your mum and that, and they're not there, then you develop this sense of breathlessness. And that was the asthma, which I grew out of at about 19 or 20.
But you were a lonely child, must have been, because your dad was away on the road, wasn't he? He was travelling, selling stuff. And...
Dad sold towels and things like that. And so he'd go away on Monday and come back Friday. And my sisters were older, and my eldest sister got very ill. And she was given 6 months or something to live. And so my father was really going mad, and we had no money. And so it was hard for him. He's a great man. And anyway, that was resolved in a bizarre manner. And my middle sister was the school swat, so she stayed in studying. And so largely, yeah, you bring yourself up. So the upside is you learn to be organised. You need to organise your life. And you learn to be independent, but it's not independent. You become very dogmatic more than independent. There was nowhere there to temper my opinion to say you're wrong.
I'm going to wonder where that came from, that awkward streak, that cussedness. That
would be the Irish, probably. You don't need to go much deeper.
It's not just Irish, it's more than that. You know, an Irish is gift of the gab. This is something else that you've got. I mean, what I like about you is that you're fearless. And that you have an opinion, you're not frightened of actually putting it forward, whether it's politically correct or not. And that's a great gift, in my view. I mean, not many of us are that brave. And I just wondered where that came from.
Well, it could be that. I don't think it's bravery. I mean, I'm often afraid when I go into these big meetings that I'll make a fool of myself. And often I do. And I go away and I go... if somebody says something that is just wrong or you can't agree with, then you must say it. And from that point, you get discussion and things can be worked out. And it was ever thus. I mean, I wasn't particularly interested in sports, relax. But I always liked politics and music. And I hit the right year. When I was 11, I hit 1963 or 4.
Why was that the right year?
Because music came to the fore in the British Isles. It became the main cultural arbiter. And it was to do with politics largely.
Did you at any time in that period that we're talking about now, at school and after the loss of your mum? I also read something extraordinary too about after the loss of your mum, you actually used to walk around on your hands and knees.
I forgot about that. My sister reminded me.
Tell me what it was. What happened?
For some reason, I took to walking around like this.
Wherever you went?
Yeah, up. You know, I'd get on a bus and go up the stairs like that. And after a while, my father just used to put up with it. Like, we'd be walking down the street and I'd be walking on... I mean, he is an extraordinary man. And that went on for about a year, but I did forget that until my sister reminded me, and I don't know why.
You don't know why you did
No,
that, no.
I didn't remember it, and I don't know why I did it. Yes, of course, now I know anything to get attention, of course, you know.
That was it?
I suppose. I mean, why else would you possibly do it?
God knows, I don't know.
Unless you wish to come back as a crab in a later life.
Bob, one other thing, I mean, I've known you for a while now. I think it's fairly honest to say about you that you're not a slave to fashion, are you?
I brought 3 suits here this evening.
Did you?
Yeah.
Well, you're doing rather smart tonight, actually.
Yeah, and a few shirts. And the thing is, I do like clothes, but I look crap. And it's... when we were talking earlier about if you're bringing yourself up, if you're I think this is it, odd theory, but when you're a little boy and you're going off to school and you're going off by yourself and your breakfast and all that, you're doing that, really you just put on the first clothes to hand, and if there's no one there to iron your shirt, you're not going to do it at age 9. You're just not going to iron your shirt. But you don't really pay attention to it and you just grow up like that with not that sense of it. And I'm not saying that's an excuse for it now, but I think that's why I'm sort of... I've got a huge, floppy face, like, you know, it's all, you know, baggy and, you know. And, no, that's it, though. Look, imagine if I, like, you know, stood beside... Well, you look at him, Mr. Dapper here, you know. You know, it's all this stuff.
Mr. Dapper, cheeky son. Did you have any sense in those days, though, of what you wanted to be, of something ahead? I mean, you said that you wanted to be famous, you wanted to be known. Well, I mean, that's a perfectly normal thing, I think.
No, I didn't say that then. When the Rat started, in one of the first interviews, they said, "What do you want to get out of rock and roll?" And I said, "I want to get rich, get famous, and get laid," you know, which was not what you were supposed to say in the middle of the punk thing that was going on. But I said it to, you know, annoy people.
What about the first gigs? What do you remember about the first gigs you did?
I remember them perfectly.
You?
We did Halloween night in a classroom in 1975. And I remember doing one of your... In fact, I saw one of your early shows, and you said... bemused, how would you describe your voice? And I said, bloody awful. And that's what I thought, you know, really. And I'd never heard myself, so we were rehearsing and we were making a racket, good racket. And Jerry, the guitar player, came and said, I've got a gig. And I said, and I really was frightened because I just thought it was a bit of fun. And I said, yeah, how much? And he said, 30 quid. And I said, off, you must be joking. 30 quid? Yeah, he said, well, how much? And I said, 60 at least. So he came back the next day and said, OK, they'll do it. So I was done for. And we pitched up, and we didn't know how long to play for, so we learned off 3 hours worth of stuff. And we thought of this name, the Nightlife Thugs, because I thought you should have a name that suggests something before you even heard the band. But I'd been reading Woody Guthrie's book, Bound for Glory. And I come about a bit where he was 11 years old and was in a gang called the Boomtown Rats. So I started with my hat and scarf and coat on, and our first number was a disaster because the guitar player forgot the opening riff, so we were just staring there. So I turned my back to the audience, and gradually the sound of clapping filtered through the racket, and I turned around and coat, scarf, hat came off. And we took a break after about an hour and 15 minutes. And I'd read about this stuff in England happening in a magazine called Forum, which Alistair Campbell was editor of. And a girl just walked up to me of the 30 people in the classroom and said, I'd like to shag you. So this was the career for me. Clapping and shagging, you know. Not necessarily. And so I went to the blackboard and wrote the Boomtown Rats on the board. And the second gig then, there was 120 people in a pub in Pulafuka, in the mountains, in the Dublin mountains.
Any more girls?
But that's the thing. They were going completely berserk. We were playing on the floor, and they were looking at us all differently. And I looked around at the guys who were my friends, and they looked differently. They looked like I was watching them on television. I was singing away and just looking at them. And I looked at the audience, and they weren't looking at Geldof, which is, nobody ever called me Robert or Bob, just Geldof. And they were just, I wasn't that, I was something else. And I looked up to get a pint, and the barman was dancing up and down across the bar. And I just thought, I'm never going to do anything else.
I take it that you took the lady up on her offer, did you?
Yes.
You did. And?
Well, I was so freaked out. I mean, it was all right. I didn't blow it completely. But, you know, this was Catholic Ireland, 1975. And it was so great because, you'd think you've got to be a gentleman and sort of, stay, listen, should I see you tomorrow? Like, should we exchange? She said, no. you know. So it was your first sort of rock and roll shag. Like, she just wanted to do it, and I just wanted to do it, and no more need be said, which was great at the time, you know.
Is there a pecking order? Does the singer get the first choice, and then the...
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I thought I wanted that. That's
and
why...
then the lead guitarist, and but you know, if there's a points competition going on, the singer always gets handicapped, you know, in the point system. So I was always pulled back. Yeah.
Did you dream of going to London? Did you dream of escaping from Ireland?
Yeah, London was the centre of the universe, don't forget, in the mid-'60s. I mean, it really was. Anything that was happening was here. And I just felt I wanted to be there more than anywhere else. And that turned out to be true. When I finally pitched up here, I felt...
This sense that you had from the beginning, though, you said politics and music.
Yeah.
I mean, music actually, in the strict sense, I mean, it's not changed anything, has it? I mean, it changes the way people feel, it changes the way people's moods, but politically it doesn't change much. But what you've done is that you can make that excuse, say, we're a political group. Well, I mean, who cares? But what does happen, what did happen, what you proved, was you could use your fame and celebrity to actually bring together a change which did change things. And that was Live Aid.
Well, Live Aid did that, but I don't agree with you. I think music does change
Do you think so?
Yes, I do.
Do you think a song changes a politician's mind? Do you think
yeah, I do. I do think...
And what example will you give me of that?
I'd give you a couple of Bob Dylan's examples.
Would you?
Yes, because what they do is articulate the change that's happening anyway in a society before the society knows that it's happening within them. So when you have the Beatles, for example, coming out...
But that's reinforcing something, rather than...
It is, but, you know, without being, you know, sort of tossy about it, you know, what an artist does, and I'm excluding myself here, but what an artist does without really knowing it is tap into that which is happening anyway and articulates it back to society. Now, if that becomes a hit, it becomes a very powerful political tool because 1 million people, perhaps, are buying this one song. And that can be used. So when people marched on the streets and sang The Times They Are Changing or Blowing in the Wind or something like that, it became...
It's a theme tune to a revolution in that sense.
It also coalesces and coheres
yeah.
an idea and focuses it.
Yeah. Well, what about, I mean, your own body of work, the songs that you've written? You're going to sing one now. Now, where does this song fit into that statement?
Well, my stuff was generally always about people and individuals that I banged into or heard about or read about. And out of them, I didn't do that consciously. It just turned out to be kind of that way. Whether it was, say, you know, like I Don't Like Mondays or like Rat Trap, which I think I'm going to do now.